Morning, everyone.
Peace and blessings, Baba.
Morning.
Peace and
Brother
blessing.
Yumi Odom, founder of the Frator Heru Institute. We're in our 34th year, and we're going to discuss today one of our major initiatives, the Rites of Passage, facilitators intensive training, among other things. We have some guests on board. We'll start with Brother Akil Chionesu. Please share your introduction and talk a bit about yourself and your links to the Institute.
Again, peace and blessings to everyone. My name is Akil Chinesu. I am currently chairman of the board of the Frator Heru Institute. I have facilitator status with human race studies as well as rites of passage. I am currently retired after 30 years working with the Department of Public Assistance as a supervisor. And I look forward to interacting with you good brothers.
Yeah, thank you. Brother Cox, you can do introduction just to share who you are behind the scenes.
Yes, my name is Kevin Cox. I am a FHI webmaster. I'm here to help in any way I can, learning new things, and help the organization.
Yeah, thank you. Brother McDonald is our second elder. Would you share information with us, please?
Greetings. I am David McDonald. I'm resident in Baltimore, Maryland. I served 20 years at Graterford Correctional Facility. In that experience, I became familiar with the Rites of Passage and Brother Yumi, which helped me to get on a different path for my life. Since I've been home, I've completed my training as a journeyman electrician, and now I am in the process of beginning a nonprofit to help returning citizens, ex-offender men, with their reintegration back into the community, providing housing and jobs. In the process of looking for some investors so that we can purchase properties and start some programs, including the Rites of Passage. I will include that in the program that the men will participate in. So that's what I am in the process of doing.
Thank you. Our two youngish parents, Brother Onaje Lot, Brother Bowles.
I guess I'll start. I'm Onaje Lot. I think my introduction was in 2006 when it was PASSET. I took both courses for Rites of Passage as a facilitator as well as the Human Race Studies. Been in and out, like Brother Yumi spoke about earlier. I have 3 children, and that's pretty much where my concentration of time has been, around them, around just family. Like I have a few nephews who had fathers who were paralyzed and one whose mother and father were stricken with cancer. So I spent a lot of my time around family. So I've actually applied Rites of Passage internally. Like we've been doing it in my family since I've been through the training. So pretty much every cousin, every child is going through some point or some process of Rites of Passage at their age level, of course, since then. Currently, I work in IT and I also have a couple of side businesses around consulting and one more creatively called Lots of Imagination.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Mike Bowles. I'm originally from Philadelphia, but currently reside in Washington, D.C. I've been here for about the past 11 years or so. Similar to Brother Onaje, I initially came in contact with FHI and Rites of Passage through being involved with the PASSET program. I actually started as a PASSET volunteer when I was about 17 years old. And during that time, Brother Yumi brought me along to a lot of different Rites of Passage situations, a lot of different Rites of Passage contexts. So I really had, my initial introduction as being kind of an observer participant. But a few years ago, I actually was blessed to attend the Black Male Development Symposium in Philadelphia, where I was able to learn more intimately, kind of the process and the details, and realize that a lot of the youth work I was doing. I've been a public school educator for the past 13 years, teaching in high school. Primarily, I started out working with youth that had diagnosed emotional disturbance, but since I've kind of expanded out, but I've been teaching English and African American history and African American literature in some capacity for those 13 years. And so really, being able to build with Brother Yumi at the symposium, I realized that a lot of what was in the ROP framework could be incredibly beneficial to some of the extracurricular work I was doing with youth. I was a spoken word poetry coach. I also helped co-direct an organization where we took youth and had them create and sell art to raise money for an annual service trip to New Orleans to help rebuild homes. My father is originally from New Orleans, so that was kind of really close to home. So since that time, I really have been trying to find ways to actively incorporate the ROP framework and not only my classes, in a way that's perhaps not ideal because, we have some strictures in the public school system, but thoroughly within my extracurricular programs, because I really believe that it's an invaluable way to get young people into a really affirmative sense of self. And also, as a brother shared, I also have 3 children. So the framework in terms of, having a purposeful, intentional, and structured way to transition through the different aspects of their life and their involving their community has been really essential for my family as well.
Yeah, thank you all. I got a message that Sister Melissa Watts is here, but where is she?
I see an image is muted right now.
Brother Cox, is she coming in?
Yeah, she's in. I mean, if you go to the bottom of the feed, there should be an arrow there, and if you click that arrow, it'll add that one.
She's in. It's just that on her side, her mic and the camera is muted.
Right.
And I sent a couple of messages to her. I haven't got a response yet. It could be.
While she's doing that,
Sorry, I'm here.
Oh, there we are.
I have a baby, so
there you are.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
sorry for my tardiness.
There we are.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Hey, Baba, how are you?
I'm doing well. We're just wrapping up introductions. If you want to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm just looking to see, do I know any? I know a few of y'all. Okay.
You should know Brother Onaje on this list at least.
Yes, and Brother Akil.
Peace and blessings, Queen.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. So I'm supposed to tell you how I know you?
Well, talk about yourself and how you know us, yeah.
Okay. I am a graduate at Temple University, 2004. And while my time at Temple, I came across Brother Yumi on campus and did some work with PASIP. I think I taught at PASIP a couple of years and been doing community work with a school, with a charter school and other things in Philly, pretty busy. And, I incorporated Baba Yumi and the Frator Heru Institute as much as possible. Been a Rites of Passage certified facilitator for too many years to count. So lately I have, I moved from Philly, I moved to Brooklyn, and now I live in New Jersey. And
the center of the universe.
Oh my goodness, Yumi again?
Center of the universe.
Allegedly, right, allegedly.
And I survived, and then I left. So we live in the country in North Jersey right now. It's about 2 hours from New York and about 2 hours from Philly. But we're up, pretty far up. And I haven't been doing too much lately because I just had a baby and I'm, ready to kind of get my feet back wet and figure out where a good place is to do some more organizing.
Right, a baby who looks just like your son.
Yes. I have some strong genes going on. So she's 10 months now and she's around. So I might go off the camera if I need to tend to them. So, but I'm here, I'm sorry.
All right. Anybody want to make any statements before you start the image rolling?
We're already recording, Bob.
Right. So, Brother Cox, if you can post up the images in some order. I'm going to go down memory lane with some of these photos. But feel free to make
You always
any
got
comments.
pictures.
I have thousands of pictures. I need some ducats to make it a documentary or something.
You need to.
But that was just a picture to open us up.
He's attempting to put on a slideshow now. Okay, here we go.
That's one of our many posts that I put up every year discussing rites of passage. Well, not so fast.
Where's that plant?
One at a time. That plant is still here.
Okay, just making sure.
It's just huge now. It's in the window in the boardroom.
That thing is older than me, I'm sure.
And this is our usual setup for the libationary, right? We have our plant. We have our libation cup where we pour the water into the plant. Our standard box I got this gift from Nana Madi that I keep all of our rites of passage information in. Our cornucopia for the actual cornucopia presentation. And another gift from Ed from PASEP. What's his last name? Ed Berkowitz gave us this donation of handcuffs. Children's slave shackles that were on eBay or somewhere online about 10, 15, 20 years ago. Our regular books that we use every year, African Proverbs, African American Proverbs and Sayings, the pick representing standards of beauty and culture, and one of our major bracelets. This is an Elders bracelet here made by Brother Rashid Bey, who has a shop in West Philly on 56th and Media. And I think this Brother Foos Dashiki down here, I think that's Brother Jack. I don't know who the other people are right now, but anyway. Next. Right. I asked some people to send me some photos. I did a picture of Brother Onaje. I have Brother Bowles from your Facebook page, but you can send me a photo that you'd like to see. And Brother McDonald, too, I have a picture that we took when you were here in Philadelphia of the two of us with the telephone. It's a nice looking picture, but it's very ashy looking. It's like pixelated, so it's not really crisp and clear, but I need a picture of each of you. I hate the word headshot. I call it a kichwa, which is Swahili for head. Send me a picture that can fit into something like this. And these are all that I just found miscellaneously on Facebook pages from cropping photos I had from before. And this workshop and the race workshop was made possible by Sister Sadiqa Hennigan, who's in the top row, the second from right. She's from Ohio. But she made a donation, an Adinkra donation to do these last two workshops. Okay, next one. Would somebody actually read that, please? It's pixelated on my side.
I can read that for you. So rites of passage, operational definition, rites of passage, noun plural, rite of passage, noun singular. Rites of passage are a set of specific rituals, ceremonies, or experiences, including birth, birthday parties, graduation celebrations, weddings, baby showers, motherhood or fatherhood celebrations, death, and funerals, used as markers in an individual's development. Generically, a rite of passage is a community-building, culminating process used to consciously mark an individual as society ready. It is a structured, progressive process used to make an individual and her or his community acknowledge her or his respective growth, movement, or transformation in the lifelong learning process. There is a plethora of antithetical ROP experiences: criminality, prison, murder, homicide, bucking, pimping, cooning, drug addiction, gangism.
Yep, thank
Courtesy
you.
of the FHI Archives, copyright 1986.
Yep, thank you. And everybody has a rite of passage, even when they don't know it is one, right? Every society has rites of passage. Any questions, comments on this, or statement you want to make?
Yeah, I think I want to build on that. I think particularly as being a public school educator, I kind of witnessed the lack of consciousness that young people have about rites of passage very intently. A lot of times, particularly in conversations with young brothers over the years, I've kind of been continually reminded about how there's a lot of, I would say, determinism, right? So it's this idea that, okay, in my process from going to be a boy to a man, there are certain things that I'm supposed to go through that are going to make me a man. But a lot of times, as is shown in this definition, a lot of these experiences are these antithetical experiences that a lot of times the youth don't actually see themselves as having control over, right? So it's like, these are the expectations on me, from my father or from my father figures or from my older cousins or from my peers. So these are things that I must do. And I think that there's a lot of space to be had for particularly giving young men who I have the most experience working with, a concept that, no, you can consciously choose what type of outcomes you want in terms of your transition. And you can choose to associate yourself and align yourself with people who can guide you through those experiences that will lead you to those outcomes, And I think that a lot of our youth are kind of accepting some of these antithetical ROP experiences as being things that are absolute instead of things that are optional.
And I will second that. Like, I know being of hip hop and what I grew up on, what I love, I know we get conditioned with this product of our environment narrative, and we don't get into you can produce your environment. We don't get into that intentional aspect of how much agency you have as a child and as a young adult to shape your environment, shape your outlook, shape your prospects, and go for it. So, yeah, definitely.
And
I think a lot of times that we allow society and the media to educate our children, our youth. I mean, even to the point of just watching cartoons. I was watching cartoons the other day with a young one, and their favorite cartoon is Angry Birds, and these are birds that are just angry, and it's like this that's one of the most popular cartoons out these days. So I mean, if when you sit back and look at these media brainwashings, it's like it's up to us to educate at the early ages so that as they do grow from childhood to adolescence, they will have some knowledge of what is expected in life, so they're not just aimlessly wandering from 12 to 13 to 16, not having a real focus and direction. It's incumbent upon us as elders, as mentors, as those who have gone through these experiences to guide the youth so that they are able to become productive members of life, not just society, but of life, and that they are able to have productive life. And it's not about making a whole lot of money. I'm talking about productive, being willing to help others, being willing to share your life, being able to encourage others. Because many times you grow up so selfish. It's all about me. It's all about what I want. The heck with everybody else. I got to get mine. And that's the message that society re-emphasized. That's the message that the rap artists and the videos of hip hop and all genres are brainwashing our youth and those who allow themselves to be brainwashed. I have chosen to take a sabbatical from TV and social media and all that because of the garbage that is there, and being a computer person, I understand garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you put in is what you're going to put out. Whatever you feed on the most, that is what is going to be in you. So it's up to us to feed on positive and then put out the positive so that we can change this narrative that is going on in our society. And if we don't do it, it won't get done.
Just one quick thing I just, that Brother David, what you made me think of is looking at the definition as well. One thing I think also reminds me of is kind of, I think as people who are leading young people, it also challenges us to be intentional with being aware of where our guidelines for these different rituals come from. So, I'm looking at, in terms of, right, birthday parties, graduation celebrations, weddings, baby showers, deaths and funerals, right? All of these experiences are very pivotal. And so to me, also part of what this definition challenges us to do is to be intentional in terms of what cultural framework are we being informed by for these rituals, for these processes, right? Are we just accepting, maybe what, our foreparents had available, or are we being conscious and saying, okay, this is the cultural direction we want to go. So we're going to be intentional about making sure when it comes to these different, life processes that we are doing them in a cultural framework that affirms us instead of just accepting what's provided to us. And I think that's a really huge part of this definition, as well as being intentional with how we frame and what traditions within these different rites we choose to grow and which ones we choose to reject.
I know as I grew up, I didn't have this exposure. I didn't have these experiences. I didn't have these mentors. I didn't have these teachings in my life. So I went astray and ended up being incarcerated. I served 20 years in prison. While in prison, I became awakened. I became alive. I became aware. And I began to seek knowledge through books of history, and not just American history, but Black history, African history, where we truly came from, our ancestors. And that's what brought me to Pass Up and the Rites of Passage. And I have, it's been very eye-opening being a part of this organization for the past, God only knows, 15, 18 years, something like that, 20 years. I got out of prison in 2005, but I started Pass Up a few years before I came out. And then when I came home, I continued with it, coming to Temple and being part of the program there on the campus while I was in existence. But one analogy through the years that as I facilitate groups, I always use the analogy of dogs. People understand pit bulls. People understand fighting dogs. And the analogy I use is the owner, he goes out, he feeds his dogs. One is the flesh, the other one is the spirit. So when you're feeding the flesh more than you're feeding the spirit, then when the dogs get into a fight, which one's going to win? The answer is the one you feed the most. So it's incumbent upon me to feed my spirit the most, because the fight is going to come. It's going to be between the flesh and the spirit. And if I'm feeding the flesh is going to win. If I'm feeding the spirit with these positive reinforcements, then that is what's going to win. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And that's why I'm here on this Zoom call, because it's about not just feeding my spirit, but feeding other people spiritually as well, so that they too can overcome when those trials, those battles come between the flesh and the spirit. You can say, and you can recognize that this is a battle. This truly is a battle going on inside this real estate right here. It's a battle for our mind. And whatever we feed the most, that's what's going to win. So I encourage all of us to consistently, and I know we do, but it still requires encouragement. People go to church every week, whether it's on Zoom in person, just to get their spirit fed. Well, we need to be reinforced and encouraged to continue, because this battle is not getting any easier as we look around what's going on in society. Well, Black Lives Matter. I mean, I see these signs up and down the streets all over the place. Black Lives Matter. And then you have the groups that say all lives matter. Okay, yes, all lives matter. But all lives are not being executed by society, by the law enforcement system. All lives are not. Black lives have been so devalued over time, so we have to reinforce and stand up and let society know that we matter. Society tries to marginalize us, but we are 12% of the population, but we have one of the greatest economic impacts on this nation. We built this nation. It was on the blood and sweat and tears of our ancestors that this country was built and continues to thrive. So we need to not lose sight of our worth and our value, and not be brainwashed by someone telling you that you're no good, that blacks are lazy, that the other groups are more hard workers than blacks, because it's not true. And as long as we allow these lies and these myths to continue, then our next generation will feed into it. So we have to stop it. And that's what Rites of Passage does. It helps to stop the myths, and stop the lies, and share truth with those who are open to receive the truth of what is going on in this world, in this society, and be open to learn about historical facts, not just myths, but historical facts.
Well, thank you. We could add to that, not just economic, but also cultural.
Yes,
I could
absolutely.
also say that if Africans were not in the U.S., what would people actually like that's cultural? From food to dance. If we were not here, what would anybody celebrate in the U.S.? Period. We have with us now Mama Randy Grant, one of our elder sisters. You want to introduce yourself? Oh, yeah.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tanisha, for reminding me of this. But I'm Randy Grant. I'm here in Washington, D.C., originally from Brooklyn, New York.
The center of the universe.
Oh my goodness.
Center of the universe. Let's be clear. So I'm here in Washington, D.C. I do youth programming, working at CDC, if you're familiar with it. It's the public boarding school here. I'm in Washington, D.C. So I'm happy that I made it. This is definitely a necessary conversation. It's been a necessary conversation, but even more so now. So thank you for, putting me on the list, and I'm here. Dr. Yumi is a mentor of mine, whether he knows it or not. But so I appreciate his work and his effort in keeping us informed, and also providing us with foundational information, I'll say, that we can share out in our communities.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to add with the definition of rites of passage is just what I consider a key element. is that not only is there a celebration or recognition of the markers, but the individual has to recognize it within themselves that they're transitioning. The act itself doesn't mean anything if the individual does not recognize that they're transitioning or accept the transition.
Correct.
I wanted to kind of talk about the intentionality of it. I think it's very important to be intentional and to remind folks where your center is. Even with, I can speak maybe on 3 of the pictures in this graphic on the screen. The first one I think is really important because even if you talk about pop culture with Black Panther and its impact on our community, what you see on that first picture, the brothers on a ship, it's a ceremonial ship, and in the front of the boat and in the back of the boat, the ceremony is led by what we would call a priest or priestess. And they're actually going to be standing in the Angalea, which is the Wakanda Forever with the hands above their on their shoulders. But that what we have to realize and be intentional about is when we're talking to anybody about it, that it's intentional. It's African by design, and it can be traced back to centuries and centuries ago. If you go, the next picture is. It looks like a ceremony for women or for a girl, and maybe she's getting married. Right. She doesn't look pregnant in the picture, but I'm not sure what the what the gathering is for. But
that's Mama Carla. That's
Mama okay.
Carla
I see her.
Our girls' rites of passage.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see it now. Mm-hmm. So it was the girls' rites of passage. The next image is Brother Yumi at I guess it's not now my alma mater, is Kepara, Rites of Passage program that we had during our Africa Week. At Kepara, we had a structural Rites of Passage program that was graded, and it was a part of the curriculum, and it was curriculum based. Brother Yumi came in to do a little capstone for us during Africa Week. Or is that Summer Institute? I'm not sure. I can't tell by the shirts that the boys are wearing. But that's something that we did deliberately and was very intentional about it. From 3rd grade to 8th grade was a distinct Rites of Passage program for the children. And that next image is a Rites of Passage facilitator training. One of my hand is in there. Yeah, I know that's Brother Fu, but I can't think of the other 2 people in that image.
Jack Drummond and my hand.
That's Jack's hand? I knew it was Ashley. Okay. But we definitely, the intentionality has been something that I continue to live by in everything that I do. You have to be intentional with people. You have to point out those discrepancies and say, well, wait a minute, let me tell you what's going on in my world so that you can understand my basis. And even if you have someone who's in front of you who may not necessarily know the history or know the culture, but they're participating in it, it's still important to be intentional. So even when I do simple things like go over homework with oh my gosh, she's 15, my 15-year-old, she's reading through a math problem. She's reading through math and they're going over Pythagorean theorem, and it's still, doesn't make sense to her. And I said, well, do you really think that they built pyramids without the Pythagorean theorem? Or do you think that Pythagorean went to Egypt and learned, and then they came out of the world and said, it's my theory? So it's really just centering it and understanding that, and no matter what discipline, no matter what walk you go through, you are, we have a presence, and our presence is meaningful, and it has to be deliberate.
Thank you. Let's try that next slide, Brother Cox. Brother Cox is from Sister Randy. Brother Cox is our producer for today. He's our FHI webmaster. So he can hear us, but he's not on the screen. But he will be following some instructions while we're moving forward. Another graphic, here's some folks that we know. This one was celebrating our 25th anniversary. with the women who have come through the rites of passage? A handful of you. So Mama Carla was on last week with us with the Human Race Studies workshop component of this grant that we got from Sister Sadika Hennigan. Anybody know the rest of these people up here?
Not at all.
Diane Brantley. This is Shireen Davenport, my niece. Our rites of passage that we do formally came out of my household. My nieces and nephews were the first ones in 1980 to be introduced to rites of passage through our family. So my oldest nephew, William, then my niece, oldest niece, Shireen, and then the second born nephew, Isaiah, and then the third born niece, Ayana. But after that, all of our children have gone through our family rites of passage. This is Sister Nadine, Sister Tamika. Who's this person here? Who's this? This next one? That's Sister Randy.
Next to Tamika, I don't know.
This, you know, that's Sister Randy who's online with us right now.
Oh, hi, Sister Randy. Oh, it is her.
And Sister Churchwell, who is our treasurer, blah, 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 as is Shireen Davenport. And who is this? Baba Keel?
Sauda Al-Akbar.
Sister Sauda Al-Akbar. Relatively well-known singer here in Philadelphia. And Sister Melissa Watts, who is this? Tracy Rockmore. You're on mute.
I'm on mute. That's Sister Tracy. She knew about Pastor before I did.
Well, her son was in that Rites of Passage picture. He's now huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Takira, he's taller than me, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And Sister Amelia Wiggins, who just moved to Atlanta with her daughter. So these are just a handful of women who have been certified by the Institute to serve as Rites of Passage facilitators. Okay, next one. But wait a minute. Can somebody read that caption at the top, please?
I can't see all of it. The images are blocking it for me.
Anybody have a clear view of that?
I can see it if no one else wants to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. It says TFHI celebrates 25 years of rites of passage in Philly, an untapped resource. The Frator Heru Institute has the longest running public rites program in the region. Literally, over the past 25 years, the Institute has sponsored a singular community-based rites of passage initiative that has empowered hundreds of youth and their families here in Philadelphia and vicinity. Our focus is on what has come to be known as training the trainer. Basically, we are focused on facilitator intensive trainings, FITs, since 1990, so that those who work with youth can create programs that fit their respective youth populations. Our initiative relies heavily on having qualified men and women to serve as facilitators. The issues lie not with the youth, but with the adults who are out of sync / out of control. However, we also have a hands-on competency-based ROP for youth, boys / girls, and young adults who are in our program, ranging from mock city management, language proficiency, health topics, independent research, and more. The program is outlined so that it is flexible and adaptive, depending on the youth involved and the facilitator's expertise.
Yep, thank you. Mm-hmm. Anybody have any questions or comments so far?
I mean, just reading this again, I think that last part, to me, is what makes this model such a fantastic model, is it's the flexible and adaptive depending on the youth involved and the facilitator's expertise. I know, you know, for myself, kind of when I was younger, as kind of a participant as a youth, you know, something that seemed kind of intimidating for me was like, well, I don't ever think that I'll reach this point where I have amassed enough knowledge or enough experience or enough insight to actually be able to lead other people through a rites of passage process. But I think what's so, you know, beneficial about the model that you put together, Brother Yumi, is that it really shows that, and as we talked about, where one of us may be weak in a particular area, it's a challenge and it's a call to incorporate other members of the community who might have strengths in those areas, right?
Mhm.
So it's that, as an individual, I don't have to carry the weight of being an expert in everything. I just have to be able to be, strong in my square about what I know and be able to build that beneficial, network of people that can educate and nurture those young people with the directions they need to go. And that's been really, I found something to be really empowering, and it's also allowed me to kind of see the interconnectedness and interdependence of all of us in community in terms of all of our expertise, and seeing how, folks who have skill sets, who have areas of interest, which I necessarily wouldn't have thought have to do with youth development, can be very critical and essential for youth development. So I really just wanted to point out that particular sentence and that particular part of the program as being something I particularly found to be strong and helpful in making this a useful, functional framework.
Well, thank you. That's true. Okay, next slide. On one of our brochures, with just some images. The one at the top is when I think this was April Morgan was part of this group here. The middle one, Sister Randy Grant, Brother Kevin McEwen, Jamaica on the right, Brother Fu on the left. Under that, Christine Churchwell, Brother Kamua. Because on my end, it's not really clear. And at the end on the right, that's Sister Sadika Hennigan, who made the donation for these last two presentations, Human Race Studies and Rites of Passage. And one of our perennial annual braceletings with the gift box that Nanamati gave us, Diane Brantley. Okay, next one. That's the back of the brochure. This must be 10 years ago because all these people are in college right now. All these children here are in college or independent. The center one, these three are the sons and or cousins. The son of Brother Kamua is in the blue in the center, and then the brothers and cousins, I think, are the ones who are around him, and Brother Fu on the left and me on the right. Braceletting of those three young men. On the right side, this is Mama Carla's Rites of Passage. This is one of April's daughters here, the youngest one. And this was when we had the Center for the Institute at Sharswood. It's the Sharswood Community Center. The two bottom ones with the young man speaking and the two sitting and the other sitting in a circle, that's from our Rites of Passage at Fitzsimons High School. When Fitzsimons was turned into an all-boys academy. So we were there for that one year. I think it was 2010 to the spring of 2011. And this was the first school district wide Rites of Passage training that was part of the school curriculum. Okay, next one. This is our SCI curriculum program. This came into Greater through PASEP, but it was an FHI program. So, PASEP had a lot of us there who came from different initiatives. So we brought the FHI program, which I started, the prison program really started back in 1982 when my eldest cousin went to prison in Ohio, and then my brother followed him soon thereafter. So my cousin and my brother were the first two people in our FHI program in 1986 when we started the Institute. Brother Bowles, did you read that one too? You might be our reader for today.
That's absolutely fine. I'm very used to it. SCI curriculum project, seminars on knowledge and praxis. The State Correctional Institution SCI curriculum project, seminars on knowledge and praxis, is an on-site and distance learning / correspondence project designed to provide SCI inmates with educational resources and information to be used for their own centering, rehabilitation, and recreation. Because of the socio-political dynamics of this society, racism, sexism, classism, ism, etc., many men and women are ill-prepared for the challenges of life and are given the opportunity to appropriately scrutinize their lives only after being incarcerated. SCI life often encourages inmates to become more introspective and contemplative. The problem lies in the maintenance of this state, which is too often temporary and cyclical. The main objective of this project is to encourage and enable the participants to maintain a consistent, balanced, and practical perspective on life. What this project does is invest in this most natural resource by providing critical educational resources and information dealing with a variety of subjects, which range from anthropology, criminology, health and well-being, linguistics, mathematics, mythology, psychology, rites of passage, sexuality, to zoology. The SCI curriculum project is in its 30th year under the administration and direction of Mr. Yumi Odom, educator and founder of the Frator Heru Institute.
Yep, thank you. And so I thought Brother Huff might have joined us, but Brother McDonald and Brother Huff from a program that we started at Graterford in the spring of 1990. We ended up wrapping up in 2008, but I still facilitate the correspondence component today. And so we went from about 250 people to now only about 15 people that we actively able to contact, because now they have a whole different mailing system where you have to mail your letters to Florida. They copy them and then send the copies back to Pennsylvania.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's somebody's cousin making some money, doing some mailing service or something. So yeah.
Wow.
So that was a semi-deterrent because it takes a longer time to get the mail to the people in the program. Lots of other issues too. But next slide. Hey, this is one of our core groups. This is back in the 90s. Sheesh.
I was there with most of those guys.
All right. Well,
Yep.
you know, Brother Mukam passed.
No, I did not know he passed.
Yeah, he passed years ago. Brother Jabbar, the second from the back row right, he passed. We know, Brother Blackwell? No, what's his name? Not Blackwell. His sentence was commuted, so he's been out for years. Blackburn, excuse me, Steve Blackburn, he's
Okay.
out. And we know Brother Ghani just got out recently. He was a juvenile lifer who had his sentence overturned. Okay, so he's out doing some good work still.
Oh, that's great.
Yep, and Bomani's still my contact at SCI Graterford. SCI called now Phoenix, SCI Phoenix, I think. And this guy here, ooh, he's amazing. But anyway, that's a joke. The guy in the center with the beard and the glasses. The other guy with the beard and the glasses. But next slide. Need a reader for this for sure. This we did around early 90s, but I think we got it consolidated by 2000. And this happened because there were like 45 men in that one Graterford classroom where it was hot. It was the summertime. It was absolutely an inferno in the sauna. And so we asked the men who were there to write down what they thought manhood was and womanhood was. And these are the 14 elements that they all agreed on. So would someone read that, please? Brother Bowles again, I guess.
Okay. The Shangwe Ya Utu Ume, Utu Uke, the ritual of manhood or womanhood. Womanhood, manhood, the state of being or consciousness wherein a female or male willingly accepts her or his societal responsibilities. Womanhood or manhood defined. 1, seeks self-knowledge / wisdom, then acts upon it. 2, is humble. 3, is prepared for multiple situations. 4, is trustworthy. 5, is a critical and consequential thinker. 6, is a consciously spiritual and intellectual being. 7, is not materialistic but seeks financial stability. 8, masters her or his emotions. 9, has a conscious knowledge of right and wrong. 10, is exemplary. 11, is humane. 12, is responsive or responsible to her or his own children and others. 13, maintains a balance of health and hygiene. And 14, has a collective consciousness and accountability.
Now, what I find fascinating, can everybody see me? Because I can't see myself. What I find fascinating about this is that this was created by a collective of men, but at no point do you see the so-called gender roles when they define manhood or womanhood. There's nowhere here we talk about women supposed to bake biscuits or man is supposed to, have the latest car or whatever. Everything is principally orientated. That's what really impressed me about this list.
Agreed. That's the first thing I noticed. That I just enjoy that blend. Like we have a program, it's called For Brothers Only, and we're trying to establish I guess a sister program, and then we do like co-ed events. So having like an established list that's not like stricken with gender roles or whatever other nonsense that people put on the different genders is very beneficial. Like I really like this list.
And I think building from that too, it also helps there to be that kind of reciprocity of accountability as well. It's like, even though, different groups might focus on either, manhood or womanhood, by having these definitions that kind of transcend those focus groups, you're able to actually have communication with each other that can actually be about common principles.
So again, this came from about 45 men who submitted their ideals of manhood and womanhood, and this is what they had in common. And I thought for me at the time that this was serendipitous or synchronicitous because it mirrored the 14 pieces that we look at in the Battle of Heru, right? The 14 pieces that make up the whole man. Anybody recount that tale or recall that tale? Set or Sutek cutting up Osiris.
Yeah, Isis had to find the pieces,
Asar.
put everything back together.
Right. Cut into 14 pieces by the uncle or the brother of Asar, and Isis, aka Aset, had to put her husband back together again out of those 14 pieces. So for me, this was a symbol of completion. That these men had these 14 things in common that they thought made up manhood and womanhood. Okay, next slide. Uh-oh, here we are again. That's the one that was also posted in the early image. Sister Watts over here, well now, Sister Mitchell, right? Okay, Sister Mitchell.
No, I'm Diggs now. I don't know why his name is on my Zoom. It's annoying and I can't fix it.
Oh my.
You go up to rename. You click on rename and you can change the name right there. You click on your picture.
Oh, okay.
Oh, little dots in the top, okay. So
all right, I'm gonna fix it.
Melissa Watts Diggs on Melissa Diggs.
Yes.
Uni Odom, Jack Drummond, and Gerald Fu Richardson. Our braceleting of other folks, and Sister Diane Brantley's gift wooden box. Okay, next one. There you go. This was our largest group of rites of passage trainings that we ever had, and we were at PASEP. So people aren't confused. We were at PASEP, but this was an institute training.
Yeah, that was the one. I was at that one.
Right, it's like 2006 or 7.
Mhm.
We had the most people here, and half the guys who are here are still, even the ones who didn't finish, are still using FHI rites of passage techniques in their work.
That's me to the
Yeah.
left when I had hair.
Next one. I got the whole room, I hope. Right. You see, second from left is our police officer ROP facilitator. Well, what's his name right now?
Haskins, brother Haskins.
Haskins, right.
Glenn Haskins.
Yeah. Glenn Haskins, who ran the Power Center. I'm not sure if he's still there, but I connect with his wife more on Facebook, and I think the Facebook name was under their names combined on the new name. Brother Onaje's head is right here on the left bottom. That's your head?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, next slide. Or next image. And so this was the largest group of participants that we had at one time. Okay, next one. Another shot. There's some folks in it. The late great Brother Lamont Smith on the right. Brother Moore, who's still around. I see him every Wednesday doing some work with urban creators. He's also connected still to the Institute as a board affiliate. Okay, next. All of these young men are grown and wherever, everywhere. But this was the time we invited Brother Uwari Osayande in to share his book on hip hop. It's around 2006 or 7, I believe. Next. This is at the BMDS with Brother Onaje and those same young men. Next. Mama Carla, Girls' Rights, 2008. And this is at the Free Library where she was holding some classes for the Institute. Okay, next. There's a larger image of our class at the Fitzsimons Rites of Passage. Next one. And that's the other group, the seated group at Fitzsimons. Next. This is one that's from the brochure. This one here, the young man who's first from the right, that's Dr. Lowry's grandson, who's now in college too. And Brother Ram in the center. Okay, next. One of our first sets of women facilitators. And Trish Bradley is the woman in the center who did her dissertation on FHI rites of passage. Next. And you can comment if you want to. I'm just going to go through some of these clips. That's us in the group. Brother Marsh, who at the time was the FHI VP. And the second from right. Next. Okay, this is when everyone from somewhere else came in for training. And this is Sister Randy here, Mama Randy, and Brother Kevin McEwen. And I can't think of the names right now, but when I don't see them, I know their names all the time. But they're still on Facebook and they're on my emails. Okay, next. Same group, including Brother Fu. They were reading the pledge in the previous picture. Okay, next. I think this was the one for Brother Agedosa, who's in the center next to Sister Tamika. and between Tamika and Mama Carla. And this is it. That was the libationary picture that we had initially. That was Tamika's hand with that was third in that list. It was Brother Fu, Brother Jack, Sister Tamika in that crop photo. Okay, next. Who is this?
Some lady.
Mm-hmm.
I missed those earrings. I only have one left.
Okay, next.
Only two of them.
Well, this was I think it was Sister Sauda's braceleting.
Yep.
Baba Akil, that was I think was her braceleting.
Okay. Who's that old guy next door?
Mm-hmm. And then Brother Rashid, Baba Rashid, who's our braceletier. He's our bracelet maker, among other things. They have a shop on 56th and Media in West Philly. And we're still in touch. He calls at least once a month, or I call him. Baba Akil and I went by, either that was this summer or last summer, whatever that was. Last summer, just to support our Buy Black campaign. Stopped by his shop, recommended his shop, and posted some of the images. Okay, next. Same day, different photo. Next. Mm-hmm. Next. Next year. This one was important because Mary Millionaire, right here in the center, she passed not too long after this. That was tragic. And this little boy here in the green, who was that?
That's my son Coltrane. He'll be 12 next week.
Yep.
That's Kevin.
Yep. Kevin Rakeem White. He gave me one of his books as a gift. And this is when oh my goodness, these two right here. Dawood, Brother Dawood on the right, and I want to say Glenville. What's his name? One of Brother Cox's friends. Glasgow, Brother Glasgow. I think it's Glasgow. But anyway, next. That's our FHI reunion out in Baba Yaya's garden. That must be around, what, 4 or 5 years ago? And next. Sister McClinton, who was a student of mine at Grace Temple Christian Academy, now called Greater Hope. But she was in my Spanish class and she was part of the Grace Temple Christian Academy Mentor Society. She's now a state rep.
Okay.
Next. Oh, there it is. I thought I didn't post that picture. This when Brother McDonald had come to Philadelphia and we took a picture with my ashy phone. And that's what it looks like. But I like the photo. It's just ashy looking. Okay, next. A lot of history right here too. The three on the right, the left rather, and the second from right for all men who were in the Greater Good program, Greater Rites of Passage Program. All out. Brother Hakeem Fulton's son, I don't know if you know this, his son is a champion boxer. Right? So if you see Stephen Fulton Jr., this is his son. What happened to him? He's from South Philly. I can't think of his name right now. Who is this? I cannot think of his name.
Where?
Brother, in the middle, in the orange.
In the orange?
No, I can't think of his name right now, but he was in the Greater Prison FHI ROP class. Brother Suave, who's an artist still, lives actually right next door. So he's doing really well. Brother Obuna Higgins, he was the first one to support the ROP from outside. We used to drive up every week before it became a monthly program to Greaterford from like 1991 up until maybe 95.
And he ran for political office for what position, Barbara, recently?
Right, he ran for city council, I think for city council, right? But he's also known as Philly Green Man. And Brother Nathaniel here, Nathaniel Lee is still around, writing for newspapers and taking lots of pictures. He's on Facebook, so he's very contactable. And this guy here shows up once in a while on the end that you read on. I think he's now the chair of the FHI board.
Yeah, whoever he is.
Next one. I'm taking my thing. Will somebody read that? And I'll be right back. Well, I'll read her, Brother Bowles, and then have a quick conversation. I'll return in a second.
Yes, sir. Cornucopia, operational definition, cornucopia, noun. As it relates to the rites of passage, ROP, the cornucopia is the final challenge of the first rites and facilitators intensive training, whereby the neophyte and/or practitioner has to overcome at least 3 of 5 intellectual public challenges drawn out of a cornucopia, horn o' plenty, in order to consciously move to the next stage of development. The response or reply to the challenges has to be deemed qualified by 3 sources: peers, public, and certified facilitators or elders. If accomplished, the neophyte becomes an initiate and the practitioner becomes a facilitator, the first steps in a lifelong learning process. Yes, does anybody have any reflections on this process?
No, the part I recall the most was the larger the group, the more weight it felt for me. Like I just remember being in that initial large group, and you're standing, and the challenges could come from different angles, and just being able to look out among your peers, and if there is a good public gathering, like it I don't know, it like you could feel the weight. I'll say that. So I don't know how it goes in like the smaller groups. I think it's probably the same thing. Like once you go through the process, like I don't know if it matters if people do the whole 12 weeks or if it's just the weekend, the intensive program. But it is something about standing among your peers or among the public and seeing everybody like just looking and awaiting your answer and then getting that confirmation back from your people. Like that is a powerful piece.
I think that the communal responsibility is what is the biggest lesson in this exercise. With studying and understanding concepts that you have never been exposed to, or you've been exposed to but not directly, the communal challenge is what makes us who we are. The communal affirmation and communal questioning, and being able to answer those uncomfortable questions or questions that we have never had to publicly display before, really shows that you've mastered that last period and you're ready to move on to your next period, which is essentially what a rite of passage is that you've gone through something and now I'm marking the end of it by expressing my mastery over it. And that comes with communal responsibility.
Thank you. We passed our 1 hour mark and we have about 20 more minutes left. So we'll wrap up around 12:35. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Yeah, this is a good read too. Please read this. Well, this is just the actual core of it. From here is a great opportunity.
You said from what part here is a great opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here is a great opportunity to prepare for the work to become a change agent in your own family. Scope of this ROP workshop from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. This practical and reality-based First Rites ROP training will prepare you to proactively address the critical issues and concerns of young men and young women through a discussion of strategies, options, information, and resources. The Institute continues to offer a one-day Rites of Passage ROP Facilitators Intensive Training, FIT, workshop for adults with an optional certification. Myriad personal, social, and academic themes are covered to enable families to work more effectively with their own youth and peers. Includes online and internet preparation and follow-up. You must attend with your children. Limit 5 families or 15 participants. Outcome: family members will be able to speak effectively about rites of passage as a first-rate model for personal, family, and community development.
Yes, thank you. Initially, we started working with youth, but of course, as it turned out, it was really the adults who needed the training. So we'd have quote unquote parents, mothers and fathers, who would drop their children off and then go somewhere else. But the child would have to go back home to the same environment where the adult did not really have an understanding of what we're doing. So then we introduced the FIT component where the parent had to take classes as well. So they'd be all on the same page. Because often we bring, if these mothers in particular would drop off their sons as if they're saying fix them after, 12, 13, 14 years. But they have to go back home to the folks who broke them. Mm-hmm. That was the issue. Okay, next slide. This one, we've tried to do this a few times. I think we've done it maybe once. This is one of the hardest pieces to get to, but would you read through that as well?
Absolutely. The Rites of Ascension. The Rites of Ascension, ROA, as conducted by the Frator Heru Institute, TFHI, was developed in order to create, engender, heighten, or restore a sense of personal balance and centeredness. The ROA accomplishes this by exposing and introducing participants to the gamut of humanity's issues as they are, not as one might like them to be, in order for the participants to envision the optimal future and work towards the realization and actualization of it. Each session provides an unbiased yet centered critique of our collective reality. The objective of this strategy is to produce a balanced, contemporary, competent, critical thinking intellectual who can be responsible for his or her actions and simultaneously be the thinker, leader, and change agent the world needs. This holistic regimen, offering a lifetime of practical information, praxis, and wisdom, is introduced to specifically create a spiritual, religious, psychological, intellectual, and physical transformation in the individual who utilizes it. This regimen draws on universal spiritual and religious principles and some doctrines to create a holistic approach that can affect an immediate lifetime transformation.
Yeah, thank you. So I thought for our anniversary next year, the 35th, we would try to do this one last time. I'm supposed to be pretending to retire, but we'll see how that works out. Or retire to do other things, not retire to go to sleep or anything. Okay, next. This is a commentary on people's rituals, especially our own rituals. We do not seek God in ritual ceremony. We become a manifestation of God. And that's from some Facebook thing, ancestralvoices.com. Okay, next one. Well, that's our standard libationary. Next one.
I think that's the last one.
It is the last one.
Yeah, that's all 40. Yeah, that's all 40.
Okay, all good. So we can kind of wrap up. If anybody has any more statements they want to make or some parting comments. It's now 12:20. We have officially to make an hour and a half, 15 minutes, so we can go under or slightly over.
I just wanted to say I truly do thank you, Brother Yumi, for creating and being the brainchild of this program that has impacted not just my life, but thousands of men and youth over the years, and the impact that this program is having on society, you will never know. You will never know the full impact, because people who have gone through it and don't stay in contact with you, you don't see the fruits of your labor. But I guarantee you that each man, each woman, each youth that has ever sat through the group, the program, even if they were just there for 1 or 2 sessions and didn't complete the full 12 weeks, they received something. And I just truly admire what you are doing, not just what you've done, but what you continue to do, the energy that you put into this. I know firsthand much of the struggle that has gone through in keeping this alive, and how there have been forces on higher levels trying to destroy it, trying to destroy you, trying to steal it, trying to change it, trying to water it down, just all those things. But I truly applaud you, admire you, and encourage you, because where there's good, the forces of evil will always come up to try to destroy. So keep moving forward. And anytime, like I said, anytime you call me, anytime you text me, anytime you email me, I'll be there. No questions, no hesitation. Like with this Zoom meeting, I got an email out of no, I hadn't heard from you in a year or two, but I'm here. So I love this program. I love the content. I love the message. I love the depth of it all, because we go deep, and through the cornucopia, it's not just what we receive, but we have to share what we have learned. And so it is a learning process. It's a growth process. And in life, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not learning, you're stagnant. So I thank you for pouring and watering the seeds of growth, the seeds of education, and being so knowledgeable yourself on so many subjects. And I mean, and you remember things too. I mean, a lot of us will read it and not remember it, but you remember it and are able to bring it back to our remembrance. So I just thank you, and just as far as retiring, that's not even a word that is in your vocabulary. So just take it out of your vocabulary. There's no such thing as retire. You just change directions, but you continue to move forward, continue to help, continue to serve, and continue to do what God has blessed you and gifted you to do. Thank you.
And thank you. Next.
No, I guess the takeaway, like Sister Melissa was talking about, having the ROP as a part of like the core curriculum, or it was like a standardized class. And I know it's been an extracurricular in different aspects for a couple of different institutions, but that always sparked my curiosity, like pushing to make it like a core piece of like just everyday learning for our kids. Like, just how could we push that more and more and more? I mean, almost with that same energy of reparations, it's like education reform and how we educate our children and who's educating our children. Like, that's all folded in there. So that's always something that caught my attention. I was curious about, were there any current conversations or efforts to have that as an official class in any specific realm or any charter schools, or who's doing it right now locally in Philadelphia or anywhere.
That's a
I can
whole-
respond to that a
whole
little
nother
bit.
issue.
There were, at the height of it, I want to say 9 African Center charter schools in Philadelphia. I believe there are, is it 7 of them or 6 left? I believe it's 6 of them left. The Philadelphia School District has been very aggressive in deinstitutionalizing Africanness in the Philadelphia public schools. The Philadelphia public schools do have a Black history curriculum that is supposed to be mandatory for every graduating senior. They are supposed to have 1 year of African American history. The last I checked, it's not being done. It's not being held accountable for. And the curriculum that was developed by Dr. Carr, Dana, what's Dana's last name? What's Dana's last name?
I know you're talking about.
It'll come to me in a second, Dana.
But I'll post
not
it
quite.
once I post the images. I'll find it and post
Okay.
it.
But there is a curriculum, and it's a very good dynamic curriculum of African American history. And the problem that continues to be Philadelphia's problem is the commitment to developing a permanent Black class. The intention has always been making sure that they have these systems in place to continue to break down the Black family. So there are institutions, Imhotep, Sankofa, they both have a Rites of Passage program embedded into their curriculum. You'll find the community outlets like at the Sharswood Center, Community Center. You have places down in South Philly that do the Rites of Passage on a regular basis, but there's the disconnect continues to be there because it's there by deliberate design. But it's the Rites of Passage is curriculum based. It does hit on all of those core concepts that if you go to a what's the name? If you go to the school district's board meetings, you know, they are not interested in creating those independent Black institutions, and they're not interested in continuing them. So we have to do things that Brother Yumi continues to do, which is push the narrative and be that irritant and be very deliberate in all of the things that we do in all of our gatherings. I mean, simple things like we do opening ceremony every single day, and we use drums, and you could only imagine the amount of phone calls that were put into 911 because they got that African drumming going on over and over again. Like it's continuous, but we have to be deliberate in everything that we do, and know that those spaces are available. And Brother Yumi has always been available to train people who may not look like us, to train people who do not think like us, and bring them into their own center. Sorry, that was off topic.
No,
I think it's on topic.
It's on topic. This is winding down. Everything is on topic.
Now, I think that for me, you know, kind of the biggest reflection is just kind of the breadth of the program and its depth. I'm always fascinated, you know, Brother Yumi, about how much you do, and how many people you impact and how consistently you put these things into practice. I think that for me, you know, one of the things that's most powerful about ROP is just how it's really such a scientifically structured program, you know, that allows for you to have a methodology and allows for you to be responsive to your conditions. And I think that, you know, kind of true to, you know, you being a master of history it shows that it allows something to grow. You know, it will never stagnate because it has a structure that allows itself to be changed and implemented in a way that doesn't compromise the principles, but doesn't compromise the core, but has that relevancy for folks so that they can come into it and make it their own. And I think that that's really needed because, you know, as I was saying before, particularly for the youth, I think that sometimes there's this idea that I either have to do what's in front of me or I have a void. right? I either have to do what people tell me to do, I have to go in this direction, I'm being pushed, you know, either in the conventional school system or, you know, what I'm getting from my family or the streets, or I'm just kind of floating in nothingness and doing whatever I want. And I think you've really shown that, no, you know, there is a third path. There's a path of being, you know, collectively accountable and culturally centered. That's something that you can hold on to that's uniquely your own, and that will help you grow in who you are and who you were born to be. And I think that that's needed now more than ever, because a lot of our young people feel even more disconnected and isolated in this kind of, you know, social media era than perhaps they did a generation ago.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and just to piggyback on what everybody else is saying, it's really crucial at this time, as well as artificial intelligence continues to permeate our society. And I'm not talking about robots, I'm talking about the minds of our children. You know, with the YouTube scholarship and et cetera, right? The false information, or at least surface level information that's driving the chaos that we're dealing with. I think that your body of work is crucial, and our responsibility to keep alive so that we can maintain our own humanity, if you will, in this process. So thanks, deep bow, as they say.
Anybody not spoken yet or commented?
I guess that would be me. And the people who preceded me in their comments were very thorough. So there's not very much I can add. The only thing that I wish to say is that we as facilitators are the ones who are going to maintain the goals and objectives that the great Yumi Odom created. I'm grateful for the training, especially since he came from the center of the universe. I'm grateful for the training. And I look forward to either participating and or teaching classes myself.
Thank you all. We're going to wrap up here with the recording of this, but don't disappear. I want to do a screenshot of the people who are with us today. So, Brother Cox, you can officially stop the recording.
Anybody want to borrow my comb?
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.